Hello and welcome to a very short video about a neat little thing that we can start using in our programs called useStrict. So what is useStrict? It is an instruction that we put at the very top of our programs, before everything, like literally the first line of a JavaScript file, and it will help us to stop making a number of mistakes that we can make in our programming. And one in particular that's going to be kind of relevant to us for the purposes of this video. Okay. Now there's a big list of all of the stuff that useStrict does, but really what I want to talk about is exactly one thing that useStrict can help us with, which is that it can prevent us from declaring variables by mistake. And this is a serious problem because if we create variables by mistake, we don't really have control of our program, and it can lead to all kinds of weird behavior. So what useStrict does is it turns a particular kind of making variables by mistake into an error so that we can immediately detect it. This is going to make a ton more sense if we just look at an example, right? So what do I mean by creating variables by mistake? Well, first of all, let's just look at it working kind of as JavaScript intended, which is bad. So we'll have a little program here. It makes a little canvas, sets that little canvas to black, and then what you can do in JavaScript, which is bad, really, they probably intended it to be helpful in the beginning, is that you can actually make a variable exist just by assigning a value to it, right? So we can do this, for example. So here, I'm making these variables x and y exist just because I put numbers into that variable name, right? I didn't declare these variables at the top by saying let x or let y. I didn't declare them here by saying let x or let y. I never declared them. I just assumed that they existed and put values into them. And it turns out, if we go look at our program over here, that works, right? The ellipse turns up. It's got the correct x and y values. It's displayed in the center of the screen. So this is a legitimate way of declaring variables in standard JavaScript. You just assign something to a variable name. Might seem sort of like it might be useful, or at least that it might be harmless, but no, it is harmful. And let's look at an example of why it's harmful. So let's write a slightly more sophisticated program. Not much, but just a tiny wee bit. And we'll make a circle that follows the mouse. So I'm just setting x and y to 0 there, because I don't know where they're going to be to begin with. And let's make our program work. So circle.x is going to be the mouse x, right? Because that's where I want it to go. And circle y is going to be at the mouse y. Okay. Now, I guess I need to actually use them here if I'm going to display my circle at the correct location. Circle.x, circle.y is the location. Now, if you're screaming at me from wherever it is that you're sitting, you are correct. I've made a mistake in this program, right? Which is that I've got a typo here. This line is fine. I assign mouse x to circle.x. That means that the circle is going to move to where the mouse's x is. But on this line, I have a typo. I forgot to put a period here. So instead of writing circle.y, I've written circle y, and I've assigned mouse y to that. Now, unfortunately, my program still works. Okay, but it doesn't do what it's meant to. You can see that the circle is following the mouse on the x-axis, but is not following it on the y-axis. And there are no errors in my console there. So that's bad, right? We've got weird behavior and no errors, and that is not a situation that we particularly enjoy when we're debugging. And this problem is a direct result of that same creating variables by assigning to them problem feature, I suppose, of JavaScript that we just looked at, right? Because this line here, what JavaScript reads it as is, I'm going to create a variable called circle y, all lowercase, terrible variable name, by the way, and I'm going to put this value of mouse y inside of it, right? That's what this line does. It's making a new variable called circle y out of my typo. I didn't want to create a variable called circle y. I wanted to just assign mouse y to circle.y, but instead JavaScript assumes that what I want to do is create that new variable. That breaks my program, and it doesn't cause an error, importantly. I'm allowed to do this even when it's not what I wanted to do. Okay, so that's bad. And with a much more complicated program, this can be really hard to spot these sorts of errors. So we definitely don't want to be creating variables with typos, and if we don't want to be doing that, our friend useStrict comes to the rescue. Because if we add useStrict to our program, and we add it right at the top of the program, just like this. Notice that it's in quotation marks. It's pretty weird. It's just a thing that tells JavaScript we want to be in the strict mode. So it's in quotation marks. It says use strict, all lowercase, semicolon afterwards because we're polite. Just by adding this one line, the program is the same. If we go and look at it now, we've got an error. Uncaught reference error. Circle Y is not defined, or circly, maybe you could pronounce that as, on line 17. So it's turned that thing that was accepted by JavaScript as a way to create a variable into an error. Basically, useStrict says, no, you can't do that. That's silly. Don't be silly. And so it's identifying this now as an error. It's saying, you're trying to assign a value into a variable that doesn't exist, right? We've seen that before. Now it's not going to make it exist for me. It's just going to say, no, you can't do that. You have to declare circly if you're going to use circly. This draws my attention to line 17, and I notice, oh, this is a typo, right? I didn't mean circly, I meant circle.y, and I can correct it. And when I correct it, I have no error, and my circle follows the mouse. Hey, presto, problem solved. And that's it. That's what useStrict is going to be for us. It's just to prevent that one type of error. If you want to read up more about it, you can do so. It prevents a whole bunch of other stuff, but really this is the key thing that useStrict is especially useful for. And that's why from now on we are going to include useStrict at the top of every program that we write in every JavaScript file that we use. It's going to be the very first line of every program that we write. Okay? Okay? Remember to do that. That's important. And that is all that we need to say about useStrict. Use it and make fewer mistakes. The end. Hope you enjoyed it. I did.